Hello, my friends. This is going to be a great episode. We're going to talk about a murder mystery here, and I'm going to ask you at the very end, did he do it or not? And you're going to learn about constitutional law issues, beyond a reasonable doubt, direct evidence, circumstantial evidence, bail issues. It's going to be incredible. Hey, my friends, how's it going? It's good to be back. I was gone last week and I missed everyone, and I got some comments. Dr. Friday, my nickname for one of the listeners, he texted, he's like, "Where the F are you?" I was excited. I'm like, all right, cool. I promise I'll get back this week. Okay, so today we're not going to talk about Donald Trump. Yeah! It's really rough, man, because that guy just keeps getting into something or another. So we're going to talk about someone very few people in a lot more trouble than him, David Kenezevich. So this gentleman is going to, it's one of those true crime cases, like did he murder his wife or not? And, my goal, the whole, the thing about the podcast is, it's an interesting story, and it's going to be a debate as to whether or not he's guilty. And I do it's like an interesting story, and we're going to talk about constitutional law issues, rules of evidence, different kind of witness issues, bail issues. So I teach all of that, but the goal is to just have a lot of fun. So we're going to explain the story, and all of those things you're going to learn on the side is going to be interesting. So he's 35 years old, and his wife is 40, and she has now been missing for 3 months. So let me kind of like walk you through a little bit of what happened. So he was born in former Yugoslavia. Get this. So he was like 1 year before Yugoslavia like plunged into civil war and broke up into many different countries. Man, this guy's got bad luck written all over him, huh, Zeke? Yeah. We should not invite him as a guest to our podcast. Okay. So he marries a young lady. She's now 40, Anna Maria Kenezevich and Heneo. So they're married. Then they split up, and then it's been contentious. They don't have any kids, but they had some assets and some businesses. And so he was, according to the paperwork and what her family was saying is that they were fighting over money, and they weren't agreeing exactly how to do everything. She would complain that he would stalk her, kind of follow her. He always kept track of her whereabouts, those type of things. So she ends up moving, whether it's part-time or full-time, we'll never know because, she went missing. She moved to Madrid, Spain. And this is where things go downhill in a hurry. What I have here is the paperwork from the FBI, and why they, before they arrested him, they had to show to the judge, okay, we have enough to get an arrest warrant, we have enough to charge him, and we have enough to, keep him here without bail. So, all right, so let me explain. So she moved in around Christmas time last year to Madrid, and then she went missing 2 months later. Here's the thing. He lives in Florida. The last time she was seen is on a surveillance camera. It was February 2, 2024, and the surveillance camera picked her up going into her apartment around 2:30 in the afternoon. Now, let's trace what this gentleman was doing around that time. Later, the camera picked up at 9:30 p.m. somebody that kind of matched his description and everything, wearing a helmet and coming into the building. All right. He then is inside the building, and then he comes out and he spray paints the surveillance camera. Pretty slick. I would never thought about that. Right? He spray paints. Not that I'm giving anyone any ideas, all right? But he spray paints the security camera. However, he doesn't spray paint it well enough, apparently, because they still were able to watch footage of what happened. Later, there's the same guy is seen putting duct tape on the building entrance to prevent the lock from, so that you can like kind of walk in and out. So he was seen on the footage. Someone that looks exactly, it matches his description is seen putting duct tape on the gates. And then It's also seen later that he's leaving with what appears to be a big suitcase. I have a bad feeling I know what was in that suitcase, or maybe not. Maybe, it's all circumstantial evidence. And what I mean by circumstantial evidence is we're not going to get any evidence of, footage of him killing her or shooting her or doing whatever. Nothing like that exists. Okay. She just went missing. Now, right after that, her friends and family, because they were always in communication via text, talking and goofing around. So it just abruptly stopped. So that's why they got really nervous. Ultimately, she called, her family, I should say, called the police in Madrid. The police in Madrid went to her apartment, and then they noticed that a lot of things were missing, including her cell phone, her computer. And then one thing I found interesting here, the FBI saying they also found that her chargers were missing. I don't understand that. How did they know that she has chargers? Do you know what I'm saying? So anyway, but it was in the report. So all of these kind of the electronic things were all missing. Then they were able to, they had a scientist look at the spray paint. Remember the spray paint? Look at the kind of spray paint that was sprayed on the surveillance camera. And they did it, because they had the surveillance camera. So they go and they picked up what kind of paint it was. And it just so happens, and they communicated with the nearby stores in Madrid. And this is a big one. Based on surveillance video, Spanish law enforcement was able to identify the brand of spray paint used. I mean, they got the exact brand. They figured out which places sell them. Law enforcement then determined that a retailer in Madrid had a recorded sale of that particular brand of spray paint on the same day. And surveillance footage from the retailer depicted an individual who appeared to be Kenezevich, so someone that looked exactly like him, purchasing the spray paint along with 2 rolls of duct tape around noon. And so this is the same day. Buying duct tape. You ever buy 2 rolls of duct tape and spray paint at the same time? That's kind of goofy, right? Anyhow, what we're doing here in law is we're building the case, meaning all of this is the evidence, and like I've said before, one of my law professors in law school used to say evidence is like a brick. One brick is not going to build the wall, but a lot of bricks you could build your wall. So far, what do you think? We don't have enough to say he's guilty, right? It's getting there, maybe. All right. So there's a lot more. He was communicating at the time. A woman came out, because after this, things became kind of public. It was then in the news that this woman is missing, and if anyone knows where she is, this is February 2024, March 2024. A woman in Colombia then comes out, and she says that she was communicating with a guy on WhatsApp. And it so happens that guy's phone number is the same phone number as this dude. All right, so she's communicating with a guy on WhatsApp, and he then asks her to do some strange things. And those strange things it's kind of a long, I'll give you the short version. He basically asked her, hey, you speak like Colombian Spanish, as opposed to Spanish from a different country. There's different little quirks in different languages and things like that, or from different countries. And he's like, hey, I'm going to write something that's in Spanish, but can you translate it to Colombian Spanish for me? And that message was something like, oh, I met this wonderful guy. I'm going to go to his summer house. It's a couple hours from Madrid, and there's not going to be good signal there. And and he said, because I have a friend who's writing a screenplay about this. Okay, so she does that. She translates it for him. This is going to become very important, this piece of evidence. So she translates that for him. And then, because remember, he supposedly took his wife's cell phone, or at least her cell phone was missing. So he was able to communicate. So he texted that from her phone. Or somebody texted that from her phone. It could have been her. We don't know, right? We're building the case here. So someone texted that exact thing. And what was creepy about this was when the girl in Colombia was communicating with him and and they're goofing around and blah, blah, blah. She ends up telling her mom, oh, I met this guy. He's Serbian. His name is Kenezevich. And the mom just starts Googling him and researches this and finds out that he's got a wife that's missing. And in one of the articles, it said the last message that was ever sent from the missing woman to her family was exactly the same message as she typed that she translated for him. You get where I'm going with this, right? These are some pretty big coincidences, huh? So that was obviously a big piece of evidence. So she ended up like turning, she called the authorities in Colombia, and they connected her with the FBI here in the States, and then they got her testimony, and they had her sign things and saw her phone. WhatsApp is pretty strange because it's fully encrypted, meaning if someone sends something from WhatsApp, from one user to another user, and if they both delete their phones, according to WhatsApp, purchased by Facebook, it's impossible to figure out what was sent between them. All right. However, if somebody keeps the phone and keeps the messages, then, and then doesn't delete them, you can see kind of like what was sent, what was received. So they kind of got this whole back and forth conversation, and then the user on the other end was this dude's phone number. There's more, okay? He rented a car in Serbia. So because remember, he flew to Europe, but he didn't go to Spain. He went to Serbia. So he flew into Serbia and then out of Serbia. And then when he flew into Serbia, he rented a car. This is kind of strange. He rented the car on January 30, so 2 days before she went missing. And then the car, when he returned it, it had about 8,000 kilometers on it driving. That's a lot. I know what you're thinking. I'm thinking the same thing. Who the heck in this country uses kilometers? Right, Zeke? It's miles, darn it. Okay, everyone's supposed to use miles, but I read somewhere that other parts of the world use kilometers. Isn't that crazy? So he drove about 8,000 kilometers. Zeke, that's about 5,000 miles to you and me, give or take, okay? So he drove 5,000 miles. That's a lot of miles, and he returned the car later in February. So when he returned the car, he tinted the windows. Have you ever rented a car and tinted the windows for them? No? Because and he tinted the windows kind of like where you can see him, This is important because there's surveillance cameras and toll booths all over Europe. Okay, so every toll booth in Europe didn't pick him up, like they couldn't make him out or who the driver was because of these tinted windows. Also, when he returned the car, it had different license plates than it did when he got the car. All right. So from the toll booths, the stolen plates were kind of later recorded, like, because somebody in Madrid said, hey, my license plates were stolen from my car. And then later they ran a check of where those license plates, which toll booths they were. And it just so happened, wouldn't you know it, it was picked up near the woman's house, like kind of both before she went missing and after she went missing. And there's a trail of kind of like going into the Madrid area and then going out of the Madrid area and then out of Spain in different toll booths. I'm giving you kind of the short version. So they have then, somebody that complained the license plates were stolen. I take it back. When he returned the car, he returned it with the same plates, but the frame holders were different. And then the company that noticed it said, why are the windows tinted and why are the frames that were the license plates, are stuck or whatever, they're different, So the plates that were stolen were seen kind of going in this area, going out of this area. And then in this document from the federal government, they kind of list like every toll booth and how it's all done. So we could safely say that he rented a car, he drove 8,000 kilometers. I know, Zeke, who the heck uses kilometers in this world, right? He drives 8,000 kilometers. He brings the car back, tinted windows and different frame holders. And somebody complained in Madrid that his license plates were stolen. And then those plates kind of were going in and out of areas that the guy that said that reported his plates missing did not drive in and out of, at least he said, right? Now do we have enough evidence?
Tell me.
What do you think? Come on, what do you think? You think he did it?
How much is enough evidence? How high does that wall of brick have to be?
Well, I'll tell you. It has to be, let's see, here's the wall. In terms of evidence, there's what we call preponderance of the evidence, meaning like it's more likely than not. I think it's above that. Then we have what's called clear and convincing evidence. Like, is there clear and convincing evidence that he killed her? That's a much higher wall. Than the highest wall is, do you think he killed him beyond any reasonable doubt? Do you see what I'm saying? So there you go. That's the answer. How high does it have to be? It has to be higher than beyond a reasonable doubt standard. Okay, so that's pretty high. Also, then they had like other things. Here's a couple more. Somebody, because he has a business and he was still running the business like in February, March, April. It just so happened that because she ran the business with him, so there were these insurance policies on different cars and different things that they had here in the States. And a woman called and canceled those policies. Okay, so that was after the victim went missing. Okay, that was in March, so that was 2 months later. However, when they got a recording of that call and notes from that call, there was it was really strange. There was like children in the background, and they don't have any children. You know what I'm saying? And then this one, I think this might get you over the wall. Ready? This might get you over the wall. In April, so this would be April 24, about 2.5 months later, this guy, Kenezevich, he went to one of his employees, and an employee kind of then explained everything. Here, I'll read from the FBI here. Advise law enforcement. Okay, Kenezevich instructed this employee to impersonate the victim in order to open a new bank account and provide employee with the victim's social security number to use as proof that she was the victim. So meaning, so he went to a woman in the company. He said, hey, can you call and open up a bank account under my wife's name? And here's her social security number and all that, you know? So he's trying to open up some sort of account. Thereafter, on April 25, 2024, the employee advised Kenezevich during a telephone call that she was uncomfortable impersonating his wife because she knew that his wife was missing. That was good. So she did, she's like, you know what? Your wife's been missing for a couple months. No one knows where she is. There's, doubts about how you two are going. So I'm not going to call, impersonate her, use her social security number. Try to say that word a bunch of times. And open an account for you. Okay. In response, she also, when he told her, like he kept pressing her to do it. She finally said, no, I'm not going to do it because I cannot call with my voice because I sound like a guy and I'll get in trouble. All right. So she got out of doing that. And then she later went to the FBI and told them the whole story. What do you think? Higher than the reasonable doubt? Yeah, come on. Now that's just peanuts. That's just what happened. Now comes the, like the unfolding of how the law works. All right. Now, first order of business would be this happened in Spain, allegedly. All right. This allegedly happened in Spain. And he got arrested in Florida. So there is some constitutional issues like, well, can he be charged in the United States for something that allegedly happened outside the United States? The constitutional answer to that is heck yes. If he's a U.S. citizen, especially if the victim is a U.S. citizen, he can, even if the alleged murder and kidnapping happened outside of the United States, he can still be charged. You with me? So the answer to that question is yes. You know who El Chapo is? The Mexican cartel, right? So he allegedly did everything he did outside of the United States, but he was still being charged here in the United States. So it is constitutional to charge somebody in the States for something they do outside of the States. I can't say the word abroad, like something they did abroad. You know why I can't say did abroad? Because I had a student, this is freaking 20 years ago, and it still haunts me. Every time I said something like, oh yeah, and then he got married, he married abroad. The guy goes, do you mean he married a broad, like a girl, or he married outside of the country? I still remember the way he was laughing about it. And to this day, it haunts me. So I can't say he did this abroad, you know what I'm saying? Or he did all this abroad, because I keep thinking of that guy. Oh, do you mean like, oh, he did abroad, or he was abroad when he did this, Anyhow, all right. So everything El Chapo did was outside of the country, dang it. But he still got charged in the United States. So it is constitutional. You know what else is a popular venue or a popular thing to try to charge somebody with doing something that's illegal in the States, even if it's not illegal where it's done? They try to use this like for people if they go to other countries and hire prostitutes who are underage and things like that. Even if it's not necessarily illegal in that country, or even if it's not prosecuted that much in that country, they try to prosecute those individuals here in the United States for it. so that you can't go abroad and do what you want to do. If it's illegal in the United States, and then just because it's not prosecuted somewhere else, if it's interested enough, they could prosecute you here in the United States. So that answers that question in terms of the constitutional law. Yes, he is certainly can be charged for something that he did there. Okay. Then the other things, in terms of why this is going to take a while, why this is going to be an interesting case for the prosecutor, there's this now, all of this, the evidence I gave you, this is just the evidence that was presented to the court to arrest and charge this individual. It's a different story in terms of the evidence that's presented to the jury. The most, I'll go through some of these examples, like this WhatsApp testimony, right? Like everything, all of the stuff he was saying, like back and forth on WhatsApp. My late mother-in-law used WhatsApp all the time, but she called it "What's up." So everything she always said like, "Oh, go on WhatsApp and text this or that," So anyway, so everything he did on WhatsApp, all right. It's gonna be tricky to get that evidence in. So what they have to do is they have to prove that it was him that was communicating. And it's like really weird to prove that it was him communicating. They would have to potentially get an expert, or somebody like a higher up at the company, at WhatsApp, to explain kind of like how everything works, and that's why sometimes there's the testimony, the trial could take weeks, because then you're going to have to like explain this is how WhatsApp works. And then you're going to have to explain from this lady that lives in Colombia that I was texting, I was getting responses. The phone number was, whatever, 822-555, right? 867-9305. You heard that song before? But come on, 867-5309. You heard that song before, right, Z? Hold on. Come on. Are you serious? 867-5309. 8675. Now you know. Okay, oh my God, man. Okay, so anyway, let's just chill out for a second here. So yes, so you're gonna have to get someone from WhatsApp explain. It's an old song from the 80s about this guy. It's like he got this girl's number and it was 867-5309. I can't believe it. Okay. So anyhow, so they're gonna have to have then the gal from Colombia testify. And she would have to testify saying, yes, I would send messages and that's the number that would come back to me, and this is how it all works. And then some sort of expert at WhatsApp would have to explain, oh, if that's what the number shows, then that's connected to an American number, blah, blah, blah. Then you may need somebody that works, at AT&T or Verizon or whatever that says, yeah, that number was registered to this and this individual. You see where I'm going? So that's a lot of evidence that the prosecutor has to put together just to get that WhatsApp evidence into the jury, because there's a threshold in terms of evidence law. You can't just say things to the jury. You have to build the foundation and you have to explain everything before you ask the question. So finally, after 3 days of testimony from a WhatsApp expert and from, maybe the Verizon people that are connecting the phone numbers. After all of that, then you're allowed to bring in the young lady from Colombia. Then you could ask her, okay, did you text this dude or did you text this number? Yes. What did you get back? And what did he ask you to do? He asked me to do this. And then then I translated this thing saying, oh, hey guys, I'm going to leave, for this summer house and it has bad reception. I'll hit you up in a couple weeks or something. And then I saw that because later my mom Googled him and we've read this article that his wife went missing and that was the last message and that's the message I wrote. That's very good evidence. You agree? If you could get it in, right? So, and by the way, that's why plea deals, they give such a break because that's a lot of work the prosecutor has to do. And if there's just one of the links they can't connect, or if the lady in Colombia goes, gets Boeinged, you know what that means? The whistleblowers of Boeing. I made that up myself. Okay. If she gets killed or goes missing, or if she just, it's going to be difficult. If she doesn't want to testify, it's going to be difficult for the American government to compel her testimony. If she lived in the States, they can get a subpoena and they can get her to testify. But if she lives in Colombia, it's a much different process. And I don't think they're going to force her to testify if she doesn't want to. So anyhow, that is a lot of evidence that would have to be kind of put together to do all this. And same thing with the surveillance tape of the car that his rental car, and all the toll booths showing that how it was tinted, how you couldn't see him that well, and how it was the same car he rented but with different plates, things like that. All of that you'd have to get somebody that would, they call it in law, lay the foundation, meaning you'd have to have someone saying, yeah, this surveillance tape is on the corner of, whatever, Rue Madrid and Rue whatever, right? Your streets in Madrid, making up names, right? And that's the surveillance tape. It's pointing west. Here you could see the toll booth, and here you could see the car coming in. Here you could see that it's the same Peugeot is what he rented. Have you ever driven a Peugeot car? I think it's French. You have? Zeke, look at that. It is French? Did you used to own one, or just the stick shift? Oh yeah, now who's the old man, huh? Freaking stick shift over here, huh? Now who's the old man? Was it a diesel? You too? No? Okay. So anyhow, a Peugeot. Zeke just straight said a Peugeot. No, right? Is that how you pronounce it? And a Renault? All right, look at that, man. Okay, so yeah, it is a French car. So you'd have to have somebody to get that surveillance tape in there, because that would be a big deal to a jury, to get that surveillance tape in there showing, that somebody tinted the windows. That was the car he rented. You may also need the rental car people in Serbia to testify that, yeah, this car, we rented it to this and this individual. Here's the license plate. This is American license plate that he used to rent it, and here's how he brought it back. It had 8,000 kilometers on it driving. Once again, I don't know why anyone in the world would use kilometers. Okay, I should stop saying that. I'm gonna get in the comments. The whole world uses kilometers, you idiot. I bet you $5 someone says that, right? Okay. So anyhow, so they would have to get all that, and so I'm saying all this. The easiest evidence to get would probably be the employee who he asked to call the bank and pretend that she was his wife, and use her voice and use her social security number to kind of change this banking stuff around. That one would be the easiest, just because she lives here in the States. Like, she lives in Florida where this case is going to proceed. So everything else would be really, really difficult to get. But you need all of that, right? Any one of those things that you don't get and you can't get it admitted into evidence, that would take away from the wall, Then there's this issue of bail. I wanted to bring it up. So right now he is being held, and he has not been found guilty of anything. There's a whole, I do want to talk a little bit about the constitutional law issues of bail. Here's how it works. You don't have to be proven guilty. That saying, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. It's not the case with bail. Okay. The way it works with bail is, if there's enough evidence to charge you, like initially, and if the judge rules that there's enough evidence to warrant bail, meaning like you have to put up cash to get out, or, maybe you have to wear a tether or something. Or if the judge feels there's enough evidence just preliminarily to show that he's either a flight risk or he's a danger to the community. Here, the judge ruled that he is a flight risk and he's a danger to community. And because of those issues, the judge ruled that he cannot go out on bail, which is pretty. So he's in prison. Do you see what I'm saying? He's in jail. So, and he has not been found guilty of anything. So it is. But there are rules about that, in the sense that, well, there's the Eighth Amendment right to a speedy trial. Now, part of the reason why criminal defendants have that right to a speedy trial under the Eighth Amendment is because you could, in theory, be in prison, during the bail process. Like, you couldn't make bail if you can't afford it. Like, sometimes the judge might say, okay, put up $2 million and you could walk, until unless you're found guilty. So here, there are issues like, okay, so there's a speedy trial. The judge has to make sure you're found kind of like a danger to the community or a flight risk, and it's immediately appealable. You don't have to wait till the whole case is over. So you could, in theory, appeal it. I probably would not recommend appealing this because I think he'd lose. Do you see what I'm saying? I think there's enough evidence to show that he's a danger or he could possibly be a danger to the community. If it was like a cold case, there's been cases where it's like the murder happened 30 years ago. Then it's like, okay, the guy's been out for 30 years and nothing's happened. So I don't think I think we could let him out on bail. You know what I'm saying? But this was like, it just happened now. And the circumstances are pretty gruesome. Okay, now comes the trial. All right. All we have here is what we like to call circumstantial evidence. Now, there's circumstantial evidence and there's direct evidence. The direct evidence is if someone sees him, shoot her, or someone sees him strangle her or whatever, right? That is like somebody seeing it, or it's on footage, or he says something, they don't have any of that. So there's no direct evidence. All they have is what we call circumstantial evidence. Oh, he flew to Serbia and he got there like 3 days before she went missing. He flew out of Serbia, a couple of weeks after she went missing. He rented a car. The car was, he drove 8,000 kilometers. Oh, somebody said there's missing plates. Oh, he has plates that are, the frames were changed. He had, this girl that he was, trying to date or something in Colombia that had these messages going back and forth. All of that, gosh darn it. And I think the big one is the employee that said he wanted me to call and use his wife's information. All of that is circumstantial evidence. And then there's one big piece of evidence we're missing, Zeke. I told you, there's no body. Do you know what I'm saying? And Tony Soprano famously said at one point,
no body, no murder.
Meaning it's going to be hard to prove she was killed when you don't have her. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she could be alive today, theoretically, right? She could be walking the world, decided to go off the grid and just like live free. I don't think so, but she could have. And so when you don't have a body, it's really hard to get a murder case without a body. You think they got enough evidence to get him? The beauty about this is that there's going to be a lot of updates. So I'll put little shorts out there on our YouTube channel showing kind of like if there's more evidence that comes out, if he says this and that. By the way, the whole point of the Fifth Amendment, why criminal defense attorneys say to the people, don't say anything to the police, because if he did ever like start talking to the police, if they investigated him, anything he says could be used against him. So if he makes up a story or he says certain things, and if they find out any of those things that he said to the police are not true, they could use all of that against him. But if he keeps his mouth shut,
make sure he keeps his mouth shut. Keep your fucking mouth shut.
Then nothing could be, then they have to prove everything without anything he said. Guilty, murder. There's no body. Oh, look at that. We got Tony Soprano here. Wow. And there was no, there's nothing here showing like there was blood in the apartment or something. There was nothing like that. I think he done killed her, damn it. Okay. I think he's guilty. I don't care if there's no body. I think he just disposed of the body, right? It happens. If he did all of that, I'm sure he found a way to, do the rest somehow. So I think he did it, but I think it's going to be tough. It's going to be an interesting case. I will keep you posted. So follow us on the YouTube channel, Run It By My Lawyer. As always, I love this. I would love to hear what you think. What's your verdict, all right? And as always, I love all the comments. I'll see you folks next week. Give us a call at 619-672-1741.